right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sickish, a platform where we have conversations on navigating chronic illness. Today, I'm here with my very special guest, Jaymie Knox. Jaymie, please say hello.
Hi, everybody.
So, welcome, Jaymie. Welcome to Sickish. I'm so excited that you are, I would say, one of our pioneer guests as we roll out this series. And so, for those of you who've been following me on other platforms, like According to RP, this is our Madam CEO. So, she's no stranger to radio, no stranger to, me.
Yeah, right.
So before I get all up into, your business, how about you introduce yourself and let people know who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Sure. So, as you mentioned earlier, my name is Jaymie Knox. I am the owner of WJMS Media. We've been around technically for about 7 years now, just about, and give or take. So there's been some iterations. But yeah, so I am originally from Massachusetts, but I live now in Savannah, Georgia. I am a stage 4 lung cancer patient and an advocate for biomarker testing and early detection through screening. And I am just happy to be here and looking forward to a good conversation because it's definitely much needed.
All right. All right. So, Jaymie, you just let us know that you have stage 4 lung cancer. And
Yes.
so, could you take us through your journey of, how did you get diagnosed? When you got diagnosed, like, what was that like?
Yeah.
Kind of take us through that because I think it's important for those who are tuning in who maybe their chronic illness is not cancer, but maybe they know somebody who has cancer, and it's always good to kind of get a real understanding of how this all happened because I'm looking at you, I'm sure they're looking at you, and they're like, this chick looks young and fresh, her skin is all sorts of tight, glowing. This is not the face of an individual that has stage 4 lung cancer, let alone stage 1 lung cancer. So be as vulnerable and candid as you want.
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, I'm a non-smoker. I want to get that out of there. I hate that we have to even clarify that because even if I was a smoker, I don't feel like anybody deserves lung cancer. But that being said, I am a non-smoker. I was diagnosed in December of 2018. Came out of left field when it literally knocked me on my butt. I had a little bit of a wheeze and a cough. It started off very mild and just trying to figure out where it was coming from because it was only happening occasionally. Then it started to be more persistent, and I was like, okay, something's going on here. And I remember I went to my doctor and, told them what was going on. And, they tested me. They gave me a little breathing test for asthma and allergies. And the test came back inconclusive for both of them. And so the doctor was like, well, you didn't test for asthma or allergies. So here's an inhaler. And so he gave me an inhaler and sent me on my way. He's like, use that for 2 weeks and come back and let me know how you feel. And I was like, okay. So I went and I did that, came back. Of course, it didn't have any effect. And I told him, I'm like, that didn't do anything for me. And so he wrote me a prescription for a cough suppressant and again sent me on my way. And that was basically the last time I saw that doctor because I just was like, he is not going to do anything for me. They're not seeing me. They're not hearing me. They're not paying me any attention. And so the cough, sort of went away a little bit on its own. Little did I know that it was transforming into other symptoms that I didn't piece together as part of the problem. But, fast forward several months later, this was, we'll say in about April 2018, when I saw that first doctor. Fast forward about, man, it was probably like 5 months later, around September or so, September, October. And I was in the gym and I was on the treadmill running. And normally I can run a mile and be fine. And that was kind of like my baseline for the gym. I just was never a big, let's go to the gym kind of person. I was always one of those annoying people that could eat whatever I wanted. And my metabolism was like, we got you, girl. Don't worry about it.
I'm jealous.
So when I hit 30, I know, I miss it. I really do. When I hit 30 and then got myself into a comfortable relationship, weight started to stick around for a little bit and be like, hey, it's nice here. So I realized that I was like, I need to start working out and getting in shape a little bit because I'm getting a little sloppy. So I ended up taking kickboxing and I really, really loved it. I got really into it. I was doing it like 5 days a week and just was really loving it. It was just something that for me was engaging and interactive. And it was just for me better than just going to the gym and lifting up weights and putting them back down again. So at the time, taking kickboxing was a very high intensity cardio workout for me that I had never done before. So I started to have back pain, and I started to have shortness of breath. And I didn't attribute those to the original cough and the wheeze that I was having back in April. I just figured, oh, this is just, side effects of me doing this high intensity cardio. You're punching and stuff like that. So your back is going to hurt because, you're constantly balled up. And the shortness of breath just comes with the cardio. And so I was just like, all right, maybe this is it. So anyway, I was on the treadmill and I'm in the gym and I was running a mile. And so I got to about a quarter mile and I just was like, I wasn't breathing. Like I just wasn't getting enough oxygen. And I was like, okay, something's really, really wrong. And, at the time, Frank was like, you really need to get a second opinion. And so I was like, all right. So I called and I got a second opinion with NYU. Went, of course, they pushed me out because I'm a new patient. So I got pushed out another month or two, around December of that year, which is crazy because this all started back in April, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
December of that year, I get seen by NYU doctors. And the first thing they did was ask me if I had an x-ray. And I was like, no one had sent me for an x-ray. So I went up, I had an x-ray, I came back down, and the doctor was like, all the blood had drained from his face. And he was just like, are you feeling okay? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm tired, but at this stage of the game, I'm always tired. So it's just part of my personality now, like I'm always ripping and running or on the go. So I just am always tired. So, he's like, yeah, your entire left lung is covered in fluid. And I couldn't even believe it when he showed me the x-ray. I was just like, what? Like one half of my entire chest was just like missing. Like you can't, it's just ghosted, whited out. And so, from there, it was just crazy. So they wanted to admit me to the hospital immediately. And I was just like, okay, hold on a sec. Not ready for that. I was like, I kind of have an event happening this weekend with WJMS. Frank's shipping off to Korea. My cat's in the hospital. Now is not a great time. I was like, I just need a couple more days. Whatever this is just going to have to wait until like Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was Wednesday at the time. And so he was like, well, let me send you for a CT scan and then we'll look at those results and we'll go from there. And I said, okay. So Friday I did the CT scan. Saturday, everything happened that needed to happen. Kat came home. Frank went to Korea. Event got canceled. So Sunday I went to work and I remember really not feeling well. That was the first day that I can recall during this whole process where I was just like, I really don't feel good. And I don't know what it was, but I remember just not feeling good. And I
Mm-hmm.
called the doctor and I was like, what was the results of my CT scan? And they were like, you need to get to the hospital like now. And so I went in the hospital the next day. They kept me there for 6 days. I ended up having 2.5 liters of fluid drained out of my lungs, and they tested it. It came back malignant, and I was like, wait a minute, malignant means cancer. And they were like, yeah. And so I ended up leaving the hospital after 6 days with this understanding that there was something cancerous going on with me, but I didn't know what. That was like the longest week I ever had to wait because the following week I met with the doctor to go over the results and stuff like that. And I just remember being like absolutely in shock because they told me that it was cancer. And I was like, but how? Like it didn't make any sense to me. So from there, I mean, it kind of all happened very fast, if to be honest. It was like I got the diagnosis, the doctor told me about it. He didn't stage me, which was crazy. We'll talk about that later. But I just had an oncologist. I had medication I was getting ready to take. I started freezing my eggs so that I could potentially be a mother later on down the line. It just was like go, 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 go. I went from like waiting months to get an appointment to like, yeah, we're rushing you through all this stuff now. And so it was really just kind of a whirlwind, but it hit me, it hit me by surprise and came out of left field, 100% out of left field. And, it's my life clearly hasn't been the same ever since. So
A lot.
a lot.
A
I don't
lot.
even know if I answered your question, but
I think you definitely answered my question. I think you did. When we're talking about a journey, it's like, whoa, what a journey, right?
yeah.
But I think, what I got from everything that you explained is that you you knew something was going on, like you were in tune with your body. And it's I think a lot of times, many of us will ignore signs, will ignore
Mhm.
ailments, like, oh, we'll find a reason for the ailment. Like, okay, like you said, you were working out, so maybe it's just me working out. I was coughing and wheezing up, maybe. But the thing with you, you still went to the doctor, you still went to get checked out. But unfortunately, the initial doctors, they
Yeah.
weren't, they didn't, I guess they didn't do what they needed to do, because I guess had they done what they needed to do, sent you for the proper test, you would have known much earlier what was going on, because you were at stage 4 at that point, right? So
Hmm.
so you went through a whole stage 1, 2, and 3. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's very interesting because I think sometimes because we're always on the go as well, a lot of us just kind of ignore signs of fatigue, like things,
Hmm.
smaller signs. But I think if anybody is tuning in, one of the biggest takeaways for me is, anything that's going on with your body, if it's a little off kilter, like get it checked out. And if you still have that gut feeling that says, this, I don't know if this doctor, did what they need to do, go find another doctor, get a second opinion, because that could literally be,
Hmm.
life and death for you.
Absolutely. And for me, my check engine light had been on for a minute and I just didn't recognize, all of the different lights that were showing up on my dashboard. I didn't piece them all together to say, hey, something is really wrong under the hood. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
while I was in tune with my body, I also, didn't, I also had no reason to suspect that this was lung cancer. Let me just throw that out
Right.
there. I had never been in the hospital. I had never spent the night in a hospital, no asthma, no allergies, no history of cancer in my family. And, I had never even broken a bone before. So honestly, I had no baseline to think that this was something as severe as lung cancer. You know what I mean? And so for me, I think back at when I first got this diagnosis and when I was still, because once they drained the fluid out of my lung, I haven't told a lot of people this, but when they were draining the fluid out of my lung, it didn't stop there. It was like they drained those 2.5 liters, but the medication takes a while. It's not like you start taking your targeted therapy and it's like boom, bam, you're good. It's
Mhm,
like it takes a while for your body to reset back to baseline. And
mhm.
so I had probably about 4 or 5 additional lung drains after my 2.5 liter. But I realized, as I was doing the math and how fast the fluid was accumulating and stuff like that, because I was getting them done like every other day
Right.
for about 2 months when I got the catheter installed. When I was doing in office, it was like almost every 2 weeks. But at that point, it was like I had to come in because I'm having a hard time breathing.
Mhm.
So they got to the point where they were like, we're going to get you in, get a catheter in there so that we could get you drained every other day until the medication gets a chance to start working. Because right now, like the fluid was like overwhelming the medication. But in any case, so had I gotten an X-ray back in April when I first went to that doctor and I said, hey, something's going on. I'm having this shortness of breath and this cough, and I'm not sick and I don't have asthma or allergies. If he had just given me an X-ray at that point, there's a possibility that he may have caught this at like stage 1, stage 2.
Wow.
They could have maybe gone in and just, cut out whatever the tumor was. Cause there is still a tumor that's active right now. It's not active. It's, I'm in medically induced remission, but it's still in there, it's still there. So had he sent me for the x-ray when I first came in and it was exhibiting symptoms, there's a possibility that he could have caught this, at stage 1, stage 2. And if you know anything about lung cancer, it's survivable if you catch it at an early stage. When you catch it at stage 1, stage 2, you can be cured. Like it's probably like I don't know that I'm not going to say that because it might not be correct, but I was going to say it's probably one of the only cancers that you can really be cured of like that because you can cut it out immediately, and stop it before it progresses. So for me, it's like, damn. Had I advocated for myself a little bit more and didn't just accept what the doctor was saying, my life could be drastically different. My whole everything I'm doing right now could be drastically different, down to like the processes that I'm going through and stuff like that. So, in hindsight, you got to advocate for yourself, like you said, with every little thing that you think is wrong with you, because you know what the par and what baseline is for your body. And you just have to keep going and keep advocating for yourself until the doctors listen to you, until they give you the tests that you need to get the answers that you need, because you know when something is not right with you.
Right.
So, yeah, when I think about it, it's kind of like, if I could go back in time, I would have gotten a chest x-ray back in April of 2018.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how living with this illness has affected, your life, from your career, from your personal life, I mean, I could imagine that it's had a lot of impact.
Yeah. I'll say. Um, I people, I do these interviews and people are like, oh my gosh, she's laughing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm at an acceptance stage in my life. So, I had a video that's up on YouTube and there was a comment in there about like, I can't believe she's actually smiling and joking and da 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 da. And I'm like, So, just so you understand, folks, there's the 5 stages of grief. And
Yes.
when you go through those 5 stages of grief, you hit them. You know what I mean? You hit your sadness, your depression, your bargaining, all of that kind of stuff. And I've gone through my 5 stages. I've accepted that this is where I am and this is what I have going on with me. And humor has always been something that has been, healing for me. Laughter is always something that has just worked wonders for me, health wise, mentally, and all kinds of things. So, I'm at a good stage in my diagnosis where I can talk about what happened to me, and I can make a joke or two and just be like, damn girl, should have been paying attention. Like I can joke a little bit and laugh a little bit about the situation because I've gotten to a point of acceptance. And acceptance with a purpose. Like I realized that this happened to me for a reason, and I think I'm tapping into what that reason is. And so there is room for me to smile and rejoice in that a little bit. It's not just like, well, I got this thing that happened to me and I don't know why, and I'm just wandering through life sad. No, like it's definitely different. So, how has it changed my living, and what has living with it been like? I will say my journey is my own. I have a lot of girlfriends that, I've connected with through different organizations, whether it's community based or lung cancer based, whatever. But, we all have lung cancer. We're all on different paths with it. I've had girlfriends in that group who have died, recently. And it rocks you to your core because you're like, these people who passed away are people that have what you have.
Mhm.
And so it hits a little bit deeper when your friend dies, but it hits even deeper when your friend dies from something you have too.
Right.
And so living with this has been more of a, how do I say this? It's, it's not a blessing. That's not the word. It has opened my eyes. It's been an awakening in
Mm.
some ways. It really put into perspective for me a lot of things about my life. There's a lot of things I still haven't done that I still want to do. And I had to come to terms with this idea of like, do I care about how I do it, or do I just care about doing it? And so I always say, like, are you more concerned with the process of getting to your goal or the end result of getting to your goal? And as long as you only care about the end result, then the process shouldn't matter. And as long as that process doesn't matter, then the sky is still the limit for you, no matter what your diagnosis, because it just means that you may not get there the way you thought you were going to get there, but you could still get there. You may not, you thought you was going to take a sports car to get to your destination. You may be on a couple of Greyhounds, and maybe an Amtrak or two, maybe even a Septibus, whatever. But like, you're going to get there, And so as long as you're not concerned with how you get there, as long as you're just more concerned about getting there, then that to me is one of the most important things. And that was probably something that I had to really, really grapple with and come to terms with, because I was very structured, even down to my love life. Like I said to myself, I don't want to have kids until I get married. I had plenty of opportunity to wow out and have kids. And I just was like, nope. Like, I don't care how much I think I love you, boo. Like, I'm not doing this until there's a ring here, And so I waited until I got my ring. And 2 weeks after I got my ring, I got my diagnosis. And I was just like, that was a gut punch, and it sat me on my butt, because I was just like, well, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, you could do all, and another non-smoker, whole life, stage 4 lung cancer. It's like, damn, you could do everything right and still have something like this happen, And so you come to a point where you can either, like I said, boo-hoo, this happened to me and I don't know what to do. Or you can take charge of it and say, look, okay, yes, this happened to me. It sucks. It's a really crappy chapter in my story, but it's not the whole book. And as long as you don't make it the whole book, then, you can really be okay. And you trust me, there's tough days. There are days where I'm just like, and other days where I'm like, oh shoot, like even today getting in here, you're like, yeah, you said you had stage 4 cancer. I'm like, damn, I do have stage 4 cancer, don't I? Like, sometimes I'm lucky enough that I can forget. And I say that with as much compassion and understanding for my fellow lung cancer survivors as I can possibly have, because there are people in this community who could never forget that they have cancer. Never. It's a constant, every day, every minute, every hour reminder in their life that this is something that they're battling and they're dealing with. And I, with the ALK positive mutation, thanks to biomarker testing, because of that, I'm on a targeted therapy, which means my path is a lot different than a lot of other people. Like, it means that instead of taking chemo and radiation and having just your body destroyed, I'm taking a medication that specifically targets the cancer cells in my body, and it doesn't destroy everything else. There are some side effects like weight gain and, swelling ankles, and it does slow my heartbeat down a little bit, which can be a problem. But in the grand scheme of things, these are very manageable and treatable and deal withable side effects. And
Hmm.
so when I say, that I'm grateful that I can have days where I'm just like, I can just be normal, and like you said earlier, I'm not the face of lung cancer. You would not look at me and be like, oh, she has stage 4 lung cancer. You would
Right.
never know. And I'm grateful for that because it could be totally different. And there are people in this community that have a totally different story. But I'm grateful that this is the path that I'm on and understanding that that's not everybody's path. And so I say that with as much respect as possible because I don't want to come off as insensitive or privileged or anything like that. It's the farthest thing from what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying that my walk is my walk. Um, this could be totally different. Tomorrow I could have progression, be in the hospital, and my walk could look like a lot of other people's walks.
Hmm.
So I take it day by day. I'm grateful. I've come to terms with the goals that I want to accomplish in my life, whether that means that it's the process or it's the end result. Mostly it's the end result. Sometimes the process is a little bit more annoying, but the end result still matters. Um, and honestly, I just try to be grateful for what I have and what I don't have. Um, and I use that as my baseline for, how I conduct myself. Like I go to the gym every day. There's some people that can't even muster up the strength to do that or walk for, and I walk the dog right after. People that walking the dog would take all their energy. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. Whatever you want to call it, lucky, whatever it may be, I'm grateful for it. And, I hope that it's my path for as long as possible, essentially.
I mean, I think it's very important to talk in that way. I know, I totally understand what you mean about, not being seen as insensitive, and this idea of privilege. But I think that it's so important for people who have no connection to lung cancer to understand that there are different walks, because if you tell somebody you have cancer, they're automatically thinking the worst, like, oh my gosh, like, how long do you have, like, these
Yeah.
are the things that people are going to think about. And so I think it is important to talk about, the different walks, that there are individuals who, who do have it, quote unquote, easier than others, right? Just so that people can get understanding that, individuals who have cancer, they're not, it's not a monolith, right? Everyone
Yeah.
has their own journey, their own, pain threshold. Like, there's just so many different kinds of walks within this cancer world. So
Hmm.
to look at you and say, nope, I don't believe it, you don't have it, that's just not the case, because, you know
Some people do look at me and they're like, that's not true. And I'm like, why would I lie about that? Like,
right, right,
it's like, of all the things in the world to lie about, why would I put that kind of information into the universe and lie
right,
about it? Like, no
right.
way.
And have a and have a platform about
Fact,
it
right.
too,
Yeah.
right?
And no let and talk about it on many platforms, like
Right.
as much as I do. So yeah, it's the pathways, not just in lung cancer and any cancer, are very different for a lot of different people. And there are some folks that have really hard times with it, and some folks that coast through, unfortunately. Like it's just that's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
And so that's why I say, like, at any point in time, any of our journeys can change. The path we're on right now could be scenic and beautiful. It could turn real dark and real bad within a couple of steps.
Mhm.
It's really just a step away. So it's really about keeping yourself centered and remembering, like, this is a journey you're on right now. This is the path that you're on right now. And if you're on a bad path, just know that it may not be forever. You know what I mean? It might not be your whole path. You might be in a rough patch right now, and then you're coming up to that beautiful field, that nice part of your walk. Or you might be on the nice part of the walk looking ahead at something that might be really scary.
Mhm.
So it really is a spectrum, but it's like, enjoy the part of the walk that you're on, or understand the part of the walk that you're on, and realize that it can all change at any given time. So just keep that in your mind, and make sure that, you stay centered in the fact that, like, there's always somebody who could be worse.
Mhm. So talk to us a little bit more about the things that you do to keep you centered, right? Because when we talk about chronic illness, whether it's cancer or some of the other illnesses that we've discussed on this platform, it does a lot to your mental health. It does a lot to your wellness, So there are days where you're super positive about life. You wake up, you're taking the world by storm. I'm present. I'm on time. I went to the gym.
Never
I'm
on
drinking
time. I'm
Well, yeah,
never
we're
on
manifesting. We're manifesting on timeness here because
time.
I'm becoming a chronic late person myself.
Right.
I'm manifesting, right? But there are days where we're just super like energized and charged. And then there are days where it's like you said, there are the bad days, right? And that could mess with you mentally. It could mess with you emotionally. And so you talk about being centered. What are some things that you put into practice that keep you centered? Like what are some, you know, we talk a lot about
Mhm.
self-care, but what kind of self-care do you do to keep you grounded?
I do the things I like to do. Like unapologetically. There, like you said, I mean, there are some days where I am on it. Some days where I'm like, yes, like firing on all cylinders. I'm killing it at work. I'm killing it with WJMS. I'm killing it in pool. Like I'm killing it on all cylinders. And there's other days where I'm like, why do I do this stuff again? I'm awful at everything. Like,
Mhm.
but that's everybody. Like that is not something that is local just to cancer patients. Like that is something that everybody in this world struggles with, this feeling of, especially if you're in an industry that is, predominantly white or male dominated or predominantly white male dominated industry.
Mhm.
Like myself, like you have these feelings of like belongingness. Like, am I really supposed to be here? Like, was I a diversity hire? Like, you have these days where, you're really doing well, and other days where you're just like, I'm going to do better tomorrow. It's like, I'm just going to do better tomorrow. And I have those times, or, I don't get down on myself if I don't do as good as I wanted to, or I don't, excel in all the things I wanted to. I just really try to make sure that if I'm not doing well one day, just try to be better tomorrow. Like don't let it be a streak of just really not doing well for long periods of time. Always try to come and give 100%, and if you can't give 100%, give as much percent as you can, and then try to come better the next day. But some of the things that I do to keep me centered, like I said, I do what I love to do unapologetically. I love to play pool. I will play pool whenever I'm given the opportunity. If I like Monday nights, our pool night. Like I don't schedule things, I don't do things, I don't go out, on dates. Like hubby knows Monday night's pool night, he's come to expect it. Like it is what it is. And I, love going to the movies, love going out to eat. I've developed this weird love for going to the gym. Like who even am I right now? I know, I know, right? So like I actually I don't want to say I enjoy it because that's not quite it. I don't know what it is. I get satisfaction from
Mhm.
going to the gym. You know what I mean? So I just do the things that I like to do unapologetically. And also, centering is listening to myself. So on days where I'm just not doing well, I'm just not doing well. And I don't have to turn the boat around immediately. Like it's okay to just not be doing okay.
Mhm.
It's fine. You don't always have to be 100 all the time. So um, I, rest when I need to rest. Chronic fatigue is something that is a part of my medication side effects. I'm tired right now. I'm not gonna lie, but
Amazing. But
yeah, right. Like we're trying not to yawn with each other, but I it's one of those things where I have learned to listen to myself and pay attention and connect the dots. I might have been listening or paying attention a little bit before 2018, but I
Mhm.
wasn't connecting those dots. Now I'm connecting dots. I'm very much aware of the state of my breathing. So if for any reason I'm like, that breath in didn't feel quite right, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people take that for granted, just being able to take a breath in and breathe out, and your body's going to do what it's supposed to do. Your lungs are going to do what they're supposed to do. People who have upper respiratory issues are very aware of their lungs, and it's
Mhm.
very strange to know sometimes where you're just like you could feel it, and so it's, for me, I am very aware of how I feel. If I'm tired, I'm tired. If I have energy, run with it. Run with it.
Mhm.
If I'm hungry, if I'm whatever, I stay in tune to how I feel, and I pay attention to it, and I'm aware of what it feels like to not feel good. And so when those times come, whether it's short of breath or if I'm getting back pain again, I mean, lung cancer has a tendency to travel to your brain. Every time I get a headache, I'm thinking the worst
Mhm.
every time. So am just very in tune with everything that's going on with me, but like I balance it out by doing the things that I love unapologetically. Like if I got time to go and do this, I'm going to do it. If I want to go shopping, I'm going shopping. I don't deny myself. Life's short. Life
Yeah,
is short. Do what you want to do. And don't walk out with regrets. Don't walk out with regrets.
I like that because I think that, a lot of us who are dealing with issues, especially that produce a lot of pain, because that's the one thing too with chronic illness. A lot of times, chronic illness does not equal chronic pain. Sometimes
Yeah.
people don't understand that you can be chronically ill but not actually be in pain.
Yeah.
And I think that understanding your body and also not denying yourself, like you said, I think is critical. There are days when you don't feel good, when you're in pain or your inflammatory markers are high or you feel just crummy. A lot of times it's our inclination to say, well, I got to keep pushing, I got to keep going, I got to keep doing.
Mm-mm.
And no, you don't have to keep going, you don't have to keep doing, because by you forcing your body to work in its, like, debilitated state, you're doing more harm to yourself than good.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes some of us, we feel guilty because maybe we're experiencing more bad times than good times. So it's like, how do we balance this out? How do we still, be productive employees, be productive business owners, be productive family members, community leaders, whatever it is that we are, when we may be dealing with more bad days than good days. So, but I like what you said. I think that regardless, don't deny yourself and like find joy. I think that for me,
Mm.
that's one of the things that's been beneficial, this idea of finding joy, even if it's watching the Mindy Project, which I've watched 30 times already.
Yep.
I binge it over and over, but it gives me joy.
Yeah. It's little stuff like that. And I mean, when you're not feeling well, it's chemical. You
Mm,
know, there are chemicals that are released in your brain, they circulate through your body. It is a chemical thing. So sometimes the best thing you can do is combat those chemicals with things that make you feel good. So
mhm.
if that means you're having a really bad day and you treat yourself to an ice cream, for
Yes.
those 5 minutes that you're eating ice cream, enjoy those endorphins that are circulating through your body. If you're having days where you're having more bad days than good, and you're struggling to find that balance, it sometimes you just have to be a little unbalanced. But if you make a promise to yourself to try to be better every day, or try to just do one thing better every day or one thing more every day, eventually you'll see that you're making huge strides towards what you need to get done. Even if it's like, I can barely keep my eyes open to check my email. If you just check 5 more emails today, if you just do 5 minutes more work today, 10 minutes more work, little small, baby steps eventually make huge strides. When you turn around and see how far you've come, you're like, oh, wow, I really did get a whole lot done. Like if you are struggling all through the week and you've taken nothing but baby steps, by the time you get to Friday, you'll be like, actually, I got a whole lot done. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
could I have done more? Absolutely. But I got a lot more done than I expected to. And that right there is going to be another release of endorphins because you're like, your brain is going to be like, hey, you did good.
Yep.
Like, even though we were bad, you did really good. So sometimes it's just about just finding that whatever that little baby step is and whatever way you can be just slightly better the next day, just do that and count that as a win and be okay with that being your win.
I love
Like, hey, I didn't do good, but I did better than I did yesterday. Winning.
a win is a win.
A win is a win. A win is a win. So
So I want to ask about holistic medicines and, I guess, this integrative medicine world, right? So a lot of times within this chronic illness community, we hear a lot about, holistic practices, holistic medicines, natural medicines, to ease or to help cure, to help with the symptoms of chronic illness. So, as a stage 4 lung cancer patient who's on a specific medication, right?
mhm.
Have you used or have you looked into natural medicines? Do you use any natural medicines or herbs in conjunction with the medication that you are getting from your doctors?
So, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor or a medical person or anything like that. This is strictly my opinion. Do not take this with however you want. But oh yeah, I've dived down all the rabbit holes of modern and natural science and all kinds of that stuff. Like I've looked at all the things from, medical grade marijuana and what is it, RSD oil. I've looked at, CBD. I've looked at supplements, all kinds of things. I have looked at all of it. You know, I will say I consistently take my medicine.
Hmm.
Got that going for me. I take some supplements. There are known things that my medication will create weaknesses in. You know what I mean? Like you have fatigue. So you take something to boost up your energy levels. You may have like just inflammation. So you take anti inflammatory things. So I do take like or hair loss. Obviously with chemo and radiation, hair loss is always a thing. I'm not losing my hair, but I also, want to make sure I keep it too. So I take like biotin, I take turmeric, take gamma E complex, I take selenium. I was taking cranberry extract, which is great for inflammation, and black elderberry, which is also good for immunity boosting stuff. But so the good thing with my doctors is that I was transparent with them about that. So that's the thing. A lot of people take these supplements and don't tell their doctors that they're taking them, but there's a lot of things that can counteract the medicines in your medicine.
Hmm.
So for me, I was very upfront about the supplements that I was taking, so like grapefruit is something that I love. I love grapefruit. Can't have it. It counteracts my medicine. So as much as I love grapefruit, I like being alive more. And
Right.
so I just don't eat it, nor do I take grapefruit supplements or, anything like that, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, so there are side effects that happen with this medication. And so I obviously take supplements to try to offset some of those things to try and combat them. And my doctor team is well aware of the medications I'm taking. And if they see something and they're like, hey, you should stop taking that because it counteracts, X, Y, and Z, I stop taking it. Like I trust the doctors because like they're like literally a couple days within. So when was treating in Savannah, taking all these supplements and stuff like that, nobody said a word. Not a word. Not a word was said. I transferred to MUSC, right? And treating with MUSC currently. Within a week of my appointment, the pharmacy called me. MUSC pharmacy called me and said, "Hey, I'm a pharmacist with MUSC. I was reviewing your chart and the supplements that you're taking and the medication you're on." And she was like, "Is there a reason why you're taking cranberry extract and black elderberry?" And I was like, "Well, I'm like cranberry extract is antioxidant, so I was taking that, for obvious health benefits, and then black elderberry is immune boosting, so I was taking that because I'm immunocompromised." And she's
Hmm.
like, those vitamins and minerals tend to counteract some of the stuff in your medicine. She's like, "Is it okay if you stop taking that?" And I'm like, "Yes." Absolutely. You know what I mean? Because I could find other ways to take antioxidants and I could find other ways to boost my immunity. I don't have to take those things. And so I will say like having a care team that is paying attention to what you're doing and being very transparent about the stuff that you're doing is important because you could be putting yourself at risk or, cutting your own lifeline by doing things outside of the regimen that you're not communicating with your care team. And a lot of times they'll either confirm or say, you're wasting your time doing that. So it only really behooves you to include your care team in the supplements and things that you're taking because they can let you know if you're actually doing more harm than good. Or if you're just wasting your time in general. So yeah, I've dabbled in a little bit of everything just to see. Um, but I've stuck with the same sort of regimen of supplements for pretty much the duration of my diagnosis so far. And I mean, I don't think I'll ever find anything to combat the fatigue I feel, but otherwise everything else seems to be okay. So knock on wood.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's always important to bring that up because, again, whenever we talk about chronic illness, there's so many holistic, natural medicine conversations
Yeah.
around that. But I think what you said is so key. Sometimes it's not that you can't, but you do want to speak to your providers because if you are committed to taking, the Western medicine, then you kind of need to know what will counteract, because a lot of times people think that, oh, it's natural, but a lot of medicines are derived from these natural, roots and herbs. And so
Yep.
the same way you can take two medicines and they can counteract it, the same way a natural herb can counteract with a medicine, or can counteract with another herb. Because
Yep.
sometimes people are out here poisoning themselves because they're just taking a 50 million herbs without actually understanding
Yep.
which one goes with which. So I think that for anybody who is tuning in, who currently is on, medication, on Western meds, that, if you are interested in integrating the medicines, that you have a conversation with your doctor or
Yep.
whoever your herbalist is, and create that care team, like you said, to make sure that we're not poisoning ourselves.
Yeah. And just that you're giving yourself the best possible opportunity for success. You don't want to be shooting yourself in the foot thinking that you're helping yourself. So,
Right. And a lot of
yeah.
times we do that.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So I know that you have been doing a lot of advocacy work around lung cancer. And so, as again, we're talking about chronic illness, the reason for this platform is to raise more awareness, to kind of put faces to these illnesses, because again, people look at us and they're like, oh, you're fine. There's a lack of empathy sometimes that comes out of this, because they just can't understand that, yes, I was okay yesterday, but I'm not okay right now. Or I could have
Yeah.
been okay an hour ago. I'm dying right now. So advocacy in this realm is so critical. So I know in the time that we have left, just talk to us about why advocacy is so important, and what are some things that you're working on now, because I know you have some advocacy work that you're currently doing.
Always advocacy work. It's never ending. Advocacy is important because it's how you raise the awareness. You know what I mean? I can talk to a whole bunch of people right now and hit them with statistics, and they'll be like, "Oh, I had no idea." Exactly.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times this information just exists in a silo. It's only
Right.
the people who are in that community know about this information, but it's information that could benefit a lot more people.
Mhm.
So, for example, one of the main things that the platforms I stand on is the screening criteria for lung cancer. It is ridiculous and it makes zero sense.
Mhm.
So I always tell people, and a lot of the videos that I do are based around the fact that like lung cancer is treatable, manageable, and sometimes curable when you detect it early, stage
Mhm.
one, stage two. It's critical that you detect it early. It's a lot less survivable when you detect it later, depending on, what kind of or what branch of lung cancer you get diagnosed with.
Mhm.
So the screening criteria for lung cancer right now is set up where you have to have smoked 20 pack years. I don't know what that means. It means like you've had to have smoked like for over 20 years, some certain amount of packs of cigarettes or whatever. You have to be over the age of 55. You have to, the criteria just literally is set up to capture everybody outside of early detection.
Right.
So my thing is like if finding lung cancer early is critical, why isn't the screening criteria set up to screen more people earlier?
Right.
You've got an entire subset of people, about 20 to 25% of the population, who are getting diagnosed at ages 25 to 35 and 40, way below the screening criteria numbers, with late stage lung cancer, who would have never been candidates for screening because the screening
Mhm.
criteria is not even looking at them. Whether they be non-smokers, whether they be smokers, whatever it may be. But the bottom line is that the screening criteria for lung cancer is drastically flawed if catching lung cancer early is critical for survival.
Mhm.
So advocacy is important because people don't know that. People don't even know that you can get a lung cancer screening in general. People don't
Right.
understand that you can go and ask for it. A lot of times your doctors will say yes, but your insurance companies may push back. But if you advocate for yourself, like we've been saying, you can make it happen. But people don't realize that like you can catch lung cancer early and really take care of it. But like if you don't get screened for it, and you won't, especially
Right.
if you're our age, you're pretty much doomed from the beginning. So it's important that we educate people on that kind of information, because it's a lot of times it's the more people who know, somebody is going to tell somebody else. Each one teach one, and eventually somebody is going to have enough pull to make a difference in this situation.
Mhm.
That's why I never say no when people ask me to tell my story on platforms, because I'm like, you never know who's listening, you never know who's watching. The person you tell your story to could be that person to make a significant change in the industry. And so for advocacy, educating people on what's going on within their community and within themselves is important, because we're not getting that information from the people around us. We're not
Mhm.
getting that information from our doctors. We're not really getting that information from, key figureheads in the community or anything like that. The only way we get that information is the people who are in that community disseminating it out and telling people, hey, this is what's really happening and this is what's really important, from somebody who has it. Like, I'm telling you, this is what needs to happen.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing that I stand on, other platform I stand on, is biomarker testing, which is the reason I'm alive. So if I hadn't had biomarker testing, I wouldn't be sitting here, because I was not a candidate for chemo or radiation. It wouldn't have done anything for me. I would have probably passed away very, very quickly after being diagnosed. Biomarker testing was done to determine that I had a genetic mutation. And because of that genetic mutation, I can take targeted therapy, which is the medication that I take twice a day. And literally that's my treatment. You know what I mean? But without that, I wouldn't be here. Like, being L positive basically gave me my life back. Earlier on in the show, you talked about how it could possibly be a blessing. That was a blessing in disguise, I guess. It feels weird to say that. It feels very
Right.
strange to say that. Um, but having a genetic mutation like L positive, EGFR, KRAS1, all of those kinds of mutations mean that you're eligible to take a medication rather than chemo and radiation. And it prolongs your life. It gives you back your life. It really is important for anybody who's getting a diagnosis of this caliber to get biomarker testing, but it's not covered by insurance. And that's what gets me, because it's like, why would you not cover this? Like, why would you condemn patients to the wrong treatment on
Mhm.
purpose when
Right.
you could do a test that would, number one, save you money in the long run, because you're not, shooting them up with $50,000 worth of chemo, chemicals. Like, why would you not allow for patients who get a diagnosis to go through biomarker testing to see if they qualify for a better medication?
Right.
Like, that's the when you go down these rabbit holes for like the American healthcare system and why we are the way we are, it will blow your mind and really make you just be like, I'm leaving. I'm about to be
Right.
out of here. I'm out of here. Because it's wild. It just does, like, the math ain't mathin'. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why advocacy is important, because people like me get up there and we talk about how biomarker testing saved our lives, and people don't realize and don't know that that's something that they can ask for in the hospitals. That's what advocacy does. Advocacy lets you know, hey, you don't have to just settle for chemo and radiation. There's biomarker testing out there. You can ask your doctor about it and make sure that they give you something, or try it to see if you even qualify for it. So that's why advocacy is important, because we have the information and we need to share it with people, as many people as we can, so that other people can take advantage and understand what the problem is and how to fix it. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'm off my soapbox now.
I mean, it's a very important soapbox though, because I think it's just so important. Like you said, a lot of us do not have this information, and will not have this information,
Mhm.
but for individuals like yourself who are living in these communities, raising this awareness, and getting the people who can make the decisions to make the decisions, right? So it is important, the advocacy work that you do.
And
So
I didn't know to ask for it. That's the other thing. It's like, it was just done for me. I didn't know to ask for it. I didn't know biomarker testing was a thing. I had no idea. And had I had a care team that didn't care as much, I might not be here today.
right.
So it's like, that's how it should be. It should just be done. Like, it should be a standard practice that when you get a diagnosis, they do biomarker testing.
Yeah, the referral is just put in just like, any other.
Immediate. There shouldn't even be a question about it. You know what I mean? So that's the part that gets me. It's like, I didn't know to ask for it, and it was just done for me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those people. So it's important. It's just important, people.
Shout out to those people.
Yeah.
Shout out to those
Shout
people.
out to NYU, and the teaching hospitals are amazing.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
just do stuff. But yeah.
So, Jamie, tell us where we can follow you. Where can we find out more about the advocacy work that you're doing? Because I know that you post, but
Yeah.
there could be somebody who right now, recently was handed a diagnosis, and they're just like, I don't even know, like, where to go, what to do. I want to learn more information. I want to understand how can people reach out to you, or and then maybe if you could list an organization or two, because I know you're connected with a couple
Yeah.
organizations where people can go and find more information.
I was gonna say, yeah, follow me, but also find an organization to get information to. Like, I'm great and all, but like,
Jamie's
try to
busy.
Find an organization. Organization that I'm working with closely is the American Lung Association. My company, WJMS Media, is the Raise Your Voice media sponsor. So we've got a team this year, Team WJMS. We're walking virtually on May 13th. So you can register to walk with us wherever you are. We have team t-shirts and the whole nine. So, you can go to our website. It's if you go to knoxcustomgifts.com, that's the e-com site that we're using to have our shirts made. But if you would like to find out more information about lung cancer, go to American Lung or lung.org is just the easy way to get there. And you can look all through their website. You can connect with, peer groups, clinical trials. You can find out statistics. You can find out doctors and, maybe new innovations in medicine and stuff like that. There's several organizations that I'm affiliated with: Longevity, the Lung Cancer Research Foundation, American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network. You can really, go to any number of those organizations to find some good quality information on lung cancer. But if you want to follow me specifically, you can check me out. I'm on TikTok more often than anything else. And my name there is It's Just Jams. All one word, It's Just Jams. And then I'm also on, WJMS Media is on TikTok as well. So we're at WJMS Media there. Facebook. I think I'm Jaymie Jam on Facebook. I don't know if that's that's the www name, but you can search Jaymie Jam on Facebook. You'll find me. I'm in these streets. WJMS Media on all your other social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. I am like Just Jams, Jaymie Jam on all of these different platforms. You'll find me. You can connect with me. Go on YouTube, WJMS Media. We're on there too. Listen, just look up Jaymie Jam and you'll probably find me somewhere. You can connect with me.
Jam.
I'm sure you're going to tag me in this interview. So just click the link that she tags me and click that link down there.
Whatever that link is. Jaymie Jam, Just Jams, Jams.
It's Just Jams, Jaymie Jam, jams, whatever.
We'll find you. We'll find you. The people will find you. All right. Well, Just Jams, Jaymie Jam, Jams.
Jams. WJMS Jams, like all of the above.
And I didn't jump into this little anecdote, but I remember when you went to the hospital the first time before you even knew about the lung cancer, we definitely had a nickname for you, One Lung Jaymie.
I don't remember that. Did you?
We were watching the American.
Oh my God, American Gladiator. That was the funniest.
We were calling you One Lung Jaymie. This is before we even knew anything. We just
retrospect. Definitely probably wasn't funny at the time. But,
at the time it was funny because we didn't know what was happening. We this whole cancer thing was not even a consideration. Right. You were just like, I'm just tired. I can't. I'm winded. I feel like I only have one lung, and that's how we ended up calling you One Lung. But you see how
my new handle, One Lung Jams.
One Lung Jams. Oh, but you have two lungs. You have two lungs.
I do. They're working pretty good. I usually get like 100%. When I go to the doctor, I'm at 100% oxygen. So your girl's breathing. I'm breathing.
And that's good. And that's amazing to even hear that.
Right. Because I'm like, I hear people that talk about having like 52% and 40% oxygen. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, no, I don't know how you function like that.
Yeah.
So
it's but either way,
this is One Lung Jam signing out.
One Lung Jam signing out. I want to thank you, Jaymie, for again being vulnerable, being open and candid about your experience. I'm pretty sure that anybody who's tuning in, they'll be able to get something from it, even if it's not for them, but maybe for a family member, for a friend. Because I always say that we're all like 1 degree separated from an individual who's dealing with chronic illness. Yeah. And so sometimes this information, it might not be for you, but it could be for somebody else. So sharing is definitely caring. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate any opportunity to be on your platforms.
Of course. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Sickish, a platform where we have conversations on navigating chronic illness. It is your girl, Rita Pierre, and I will talk to you guys next time.